Captain Rodriguez's retrofitted F-35 shuddered as it pushed beyond Earth's atmosphere, the experimental thrusters glowing white-hot against the blackness of space. 5 other pilots followed in formation, each aircraft modified with technology that hadn't existed 3 days ago. Target lock on the leftmost destroyer, her weapons officer, Lieutenant Chen, reported. But their shields are still analyzing our signature. We have maybe 30 seconds before they adapt. Rodriguez tightened her grip on the controls. All units, prepare to deploy packages on my mark. Remember your approach vectors. Come in fast and unpredictable. The Zorkalian vessels loomed ahead, their massive hulls covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shimmer and pulse. At nearly 2 kilometers long, each destroyer was designed to intimidate through sheer scale. These were vessels that had broken the will of 17 civilizations before they'd even landed troops. They're scanning us, Chen warned as warning lights flashed across his display. Targeting systems activating. Rodriguez smiled grimly. That's what we want. Execute Echo Protocol. All 6 fighters suddenly split in different directions, each launching what appeared to be standard missiles. The Zorkalian point defense systems immediately locked on, destroying 3 of them in brilliant flashes of light. But the remaining projectiles didn't explode on impact with the shields as expected. They passed through. Inside Admiral Vrex's command center, alarms blared as tactical officers scrambled to understand what was happening. Impossible, shouted the defense coordinator. Their projectiles are phase-shifting at the exact resonance frequency of our shields. Vrex rose from his command chair, mandibles clicking in agitation. How could a Class 3 civilization possibly know our shield harmonics? The answer came seconds later as the missiles, actually delivery systems for specialized EMP devices developed by combining 3 different Earth nations' experimental technologies, detonated inside the Zorkalian shields. Cascading power failures rippled across 3 destroyers as critical systems went offline. On Earth, in a hardened bunker beneath the Pentagon, General Hammond watched the sensor readings with cautious optimism. The South Korean and Japanese harmonic analysis was correct, he said to the assembled Joint Chiefs. Their shield technology is advanced, but follows predictable wave patterns. A communications officer interrupted. Sir, we're getting reports from Mumbai. Their defense teams have successfully redirected one of the alien bombardment salvos back toward the attacking vessel using the modified satellite array. Meanwhile, in a makeshift lab at MIT, Dr. Eliza Watson and her international team worked feverishly to decode the alien communications they'd intercepted. Fragments of translated data streamed across their screens. They're calling for reinforcements, she realized, pushing her glasses up. But more importantly, they're confused. Look at this transmission. They keep referring to us as unexpectedly coordinated and displaying impossible adaptation rates. Her colleague, Dr. Okafor from Nigeria, looked up from his own terminal. They expected us to panic, to fragment. They don't understand that humans have been imagining and preparing for this scenario for centuries. Halfway across the world, beneath the streets of Shanghai, Colonel Lin addressed his cybersecurity team. The aliens' network architecture is unlike anything we've seen, but it still follows information theory principles. Find me patterns, find me weaknesses. A young lieutenant raised her hand. Sir, we've identified what appears to be command-level traffic. Their encryption is complex, but we've detected repeating sequences that suggest automated response protocols. As Captain Rodriguez's squadron returned to Earth, having successfully disrupted the Zorkalian attack pattern, she received an unexpected transmission from NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station. Captain, we're detecting another vessel approaching the solar system. It's not Zorkalian. Different design entirely. Whoever they are, they're coming in fast. Admiral Vrex paced the command deck of his flagship, the holographic displays around him showing another failed ground assault. The elite Zorkalian shock troops. genetically engineered for conquest and equipped with armor capable of withstanding most energy weapons, were retreating from what should have been an easy target in northern Russia. "Explain," he demanded, his voice unnaturally calm despite the mandibles clicking rapidly in frustration. The ground commander's hologram flickered. "The humans are using their environment against us, Admiral. They'd flooded areas to disable our thermal targeting, created false heat signatures to draw our forces into ambushes, and somehow adapted their primitive projectile weapons to target weak points in our armor that they couldn't possibly have identified so quickly." Vrek studied the battlefield analytics. The human resistance wasn't just strong. It was evolving hourly. Each Zorkalian tactic was being countered almost as soon as it was deployed. "They learned too fast," he muttered. "How?" In Seoul, the joint Korean science team worked tirelessly in what had once been rival laboratories. Dr. Park from the south and Dr. Kim from the north stood side by side, examining the captured alien communication device. "The quantum entanglement is impressive," Dr. Kim noted, "but their signal processing is vulnerable to precise electromagnetic interference." Dr. Park nodded. "If we reconfigure the satellite network to broadcast on these specific frequencies," she typed rapidly, sending the calculations to the waiting defense teams. Within hours, Zorkalian battlefield communications began failing across Asia. Tactical units, suddenly unable to coordinate, found themselves outmaneuvered by human forces that communicated through hastily implemented backup systems, everything from fiber optics to motorcycle couriers. Meanwhile, in Bangalore, Avik sat cross-legged on his bed, surrounded by screens displaying alien code he'd extracted from damaged Zorkalian equipment. At 16, he'd already developed 3 cybersecurity systems that major corporations had implemented worldwide. Now, with dark circles under his eyes after nearly 2 days without sleep, he spotted the pattern. "They're using a predictive algorithm," he told the Indian military officer watching over his shoulder. "Their targeting systems anticipate where they think we'll go based on standard battlefield tactics, but they're working from their own playbook, not ours." The officer frowned. "Can we use this?" Avik's fingers flew across the keyboard, already sending the solution to the defense network. "If we deliberately move in ways their algorithm considers illogical, their targeting efficiency drops by 78%. In the Australian outback, a convoy of civilian trucks rumbled toward an embattled Perth. Mining equipment, repurposed as makeshift armor, protected vehicles loaded with supplies. Farmers, construction workers, and indigenous trackers had formed an unlikely alliance to breach the alien blockade. Sarah Connolly, until last week a tour guide, checked her makeshift radio. Drone scouts report the aliens have set up checkpoints along the highway. They're using some kind of energy barrier. Beside her, Aboriginal elder Uncle Ben studied the terrain. There's an old stock route through the hills. No technology would detect it unless they specifically knew to look. My people have used it for thousands of years. Sarah nodded. Will it support the weight of the trucks? If we reinforce the crossing at Davidson Creek, the mining equipment can help with that. In his war room, Admiral Vrex received another disturbing report. Human civilians were proving as troublesome as their militaries. Instead of panicking or surrendering, they were organizing support systems, creating improvised weapons from everyday items, and developing workarounds for disabled infrastructure. Their behavioral patterns make no sense, his cultural analyst admitted. Every other species we've conquered has a breaking point, a threshold of casualties or destruction after which resistance collapses. These humans, he hesitated, they seemed to grow more determined with each setback. Vrex stared at the global map, where human resistance was now showing as red points of light. The lights weren't diminishing. They were multiplying. The crystalline ship's interior defied human architectural expectations. No sharp angles, no obvious machinery. Just flowing, luminescent surfaces that seemed almost alive. The human delegation, consisting of representatives from the UN Security Council and top military advisors, found themselves seated at what appeared to be a table made of suspended light. Ambassador Delara, her translucent skin revealing complex patterns of bioluminescence beneath, placed a small orb at the center of the table. It expanded into a three-dimensional display of Earth, surrounded by layers of data. For over 4,000 years, the Galactic Concord has maintained a policy of non-interference with developing worlds. She began, her voice melodic yet somehow carrying unmistakable authority. Earth has been under special observation protocol since your Bronze Age. General Okonkwo from Nigeria leaned forward. You've been watching us for 4 millennia without making contact. It is our most sacred principle, Delara replied. Species must develop without external influence until they achieve independent interstellar capability, or until someone attacks them, the Russian delegate muttered. Delara's skin flashed patterns of what might have been regret. The Zorkelians violated multiple Concord directives. They will face consequences. Admiral Vrex, seated at the far end of the table, hissed softly. We followed standard conquest protocols. Earth was designated as Class 3, suitable for resource extraction, and Earth was never designated Class 3. Delara interrupted, her tone sharp. The display shifted, showing a complex classification matrix. A single marker, labeled Earth, sat isolated in a region coded deep red. Earth is the only Class X civilization currently known to the Concord. Has been for 8 centuries. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Vasquez, representing the scientific community, studied the display with growing fascination. What exactly does Class X mean? Delara's assistant, a being with multiple limbs and eyes that appeared to perceive beyond normal spectrums, stepped forward. Class X designates a species with extinction-level potential on a galactic scale. Murmurs of shock rippled through the human delegation. You're saying we're dangerous? The Chinese ambassador asked carefully. Extraordinarily, Delara confirmed, but the patterns on her skin shifted to something more complex, yet also extraordinarily promising. No species in Concord records has ever demonstrated your capacity for both creation and destruction, cooperation and competition, cruelty and compassion, all existing simultaneously within the same civilization. Outside the meeting room, Captain Rodriguez had been granted permission to speak with lower-ranking Concord officers. A being that appeared to be made of interlocking geometric shapes had been assigned as her guide. Your ship is beautiful, Rodriguez offered, studying the living crystalline walls. Thank you, the guide replied. It is grown, not built. A single organism modified to serve as both habitat and transport. Rodriguez processed this revelation. Biological technology on this scale would revolutionize our approach to space travel. The guide emitted a harmonic that might have been laughter. And there it is. There what is? What makes humans Class X? I reveal an entirely new technological paradigm, and within seconds, you're already conceptualizing applications. The guide's geometric segments rearranged slightly. Most species would require generations to adapt to such a fundamental shift in thinking. Back in the conference room, Ambassador Delara had moved to the critical point of the discussion. The Zorkelian attack has accelerated Earth's development trajectory by approximately 50 years. Our models now show humanity achieving independent interstellar capability within 5 years, possibly less. Admiral Vrex's mandibles clicked rapidly in obvious distress. 5 years? That's impossible. Even after obtaining our technology. You still don't understand. Delara cut him off. Humans don't simply adopt technology. They transform it, improve it, combine it with ideas no other species would consider. She turned to the human delegation. This is why the Concord classified Earth as it did. You're not merely dangerous because of what you might do, but because of how quickly you can do it. The UN Secretary-General leaned forward. Ambassador Delara, you mentioned consequences for the Zorkelians. What exactly did you mean? Dr. Elena Vasquez examined the alien power cell under the laboratory's specialized scanning equipment. The device, no larger than a coffee mug, contained enough energy to power a small city for a year. More remarkably, it showed no signs of depletion despite continuous operation since its capture. "It's not just storing energy," she explained to the international team of scientists gathered around her workstation. "It's actively generating it through some kind of quantum resonance with something." Professor Takahashi from Kyoto University adjusted his glasses. "With what exactly?" "That's the fascinating part," Vasquez replied, pulling up a spectrum analysis. "It seems to be drawing energy from what we might call vacuum fluctuations, the quantum foam of space-time itself." In Geneva, the diplomatic discussions continued as Ambassador De Lara revealed more of humanity's hidden history. The holographic display showed ancient cave paintings, megalithic structures, and eventually modern cities, all apparently under observation. "You've been watching us build civilizations, fight wars, develop technology, all without intervention," Chinese diplomat Wei Zong asked, his voice tense with barely contained emotion. De Lara's skin patterns shifted to a somber configuration. "The non-interference directive exists for good reason, Diplomat Zhang. And what reason would justify watching genocide? Disease, suffering that your technology could have prevented?" Zhang demanded. De Lara paused before responding. "May we speak privately?" The other delegates reluctantly agreed to a brief recess. As they filed out, De Lara gestured to a smaller chamber adjacent to the main conference room. Zhang followed, his posture rigid with suppressed anger. "You believe we are cruel," De Lara began once they were alone. "I believe you had the power to help and chose not to," Zhang replied evenly. De Lara's translucent fingers touched a control on her wrist. The room darkened, then filled with the image of a beautiful world. Crystal spires rising from azure oceans, floating cities drifting through rainbow-streaked skies. This was Nelvarix, home to a species not unlike your own. Curious, adaptable, passionate. The image changed, showing the same world transformed. The oceans boiling, the cities in ruins, strange geometric structures consuming the landscape. This is Nelvarix now. Over 60 billion sentient beings extinct or worse than extinct. Zhang stared at the apocalyptic scene. "What happened?" "We helped them," De Lara said simply. 3 million of your years ago, we discovered them struggling with a planetary blight that was destroying their food sources. We intervened, shared medical technology to save their population." Her skin darkened to deep indigo. "Within 10,000 years, they had reverse-engineered our most dangerous technologies, developed innovations we had never conceived, and launched a campaign of conquest that consumed 11 galaxies before we managed to contain them, at the cost of 37 civilizations." Zhang's anger faltered. "You're saying intervention always leads to this outcome?" "Not always, but with species that show certain characteristics: rapid adaptation, technological innovation driven by competition, the capacity to conceptualize threats before encountering them. The probability exceeds 90%. She gestured at the ruined world. The Nelvarix were classified as potentially dangerous. Earth is the first civilization we've classified as Class X, an order of magnitude more concerning. Meanwhile, in the Colorado Research Facility, Dr. Vasquez had made a breakthrough. The alien power cell's casing had yielded to specialized tools, revealing its internal structure. "My God," she whispered as the team gathered around. Instead of the expected alien circuitry, they found what appeared to be a perfectly engineered crystalline lattice, one that bore a striking resemblance to theoretical designs developed at CERN just 3 years earlier. "That's impossible," Professor Lai from Beijing muttered. "This is remarkably similar to Dr. Chandrasekhar's theoretical zero-point energy harvester, but his paper was only published 2 years ago, and it was purely theoretical." Dr. Vasquez looked up, her expression a mixture of wonder and concern. "Either we independently develop the same theoretical approach as an advanced alien civilization, or they've been monitoring our scientific development far more closely than they've admitted," completed Professor Takahashi, the implications sending a chill through the room. The United Nations Security Council chamber had never hosted such a diverse assembly. Representatives from 60 nations crowded the expanded seating, their faces reflecting a complex mixture of anger, hope, and determination. The attack that should have divided humanity had instead forged unprecedented unity. Brazilian General Oliveira stood at the podium, his decorated uniform bearing the fresh scars of combat. The Zorkalian retreat presents a strategic opportunity we cannot ignore, he argued, gesturing to the holographic display showing alien fleet movements. Their command structure is in disarray. Their supply lines are stretched. We have captured enough of their technology to mount an effective counteroffensive. Murmurs spread through the chamber as the implications settled in. Humanity, barely a week after first contact, was contemplating taking the fight to an interstellar empire. The Swedish ambassador raised her hand. General, with respect, pursuing the Zorkalians beyond our solar system seems premature. We've only just begun to understand their technology. And in another week, we'll understand it better, Oliveira countered. In a month, we'll have integrated it with our own systems. The question is, do we wait until they regroup and return with reinforcements? In orbit above Earth, Captain Rodriguez guided her captured Zorkalian scout vessel through a patrol route. The ship, renamed Defiance moved with a grace that belied its alien origins. Her crew, an international mixture of pilots, engineers, and scientists, had mastered the basic controls in less than 72 hours. Picking up communication between Concorde vessels, reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Meki. Encrypted, but we're getting better at breaking their algorithms. Rodriguez nodded. Let's hear it. The speakers crackled with translated alien voices. Unprecedented adaptation rate. The humans have already modified 3 of our monitoring satellites. High Council is concerned about weapons development. The provisional model suggests they could achieve limited faster-than-light capability within. Recommend immediate implementation of Protocol 7 before. The transmission abruptly cut off. Rodriguez and Mbeki exchanged concerned glances. They're talking about us like we're a containment problem, Rodriguez said quietly. Not allies, not equals. A threat to be managed. On the Zorkalian homeworld, news of the failed invasion had triggered political upheaval. Admiral Vrex stood before the Dominion Council, his posture rigid as accusations flew from all sides. You assured us Earth would fall within days. Elder Kraz snarled, baring serrated teeth. Instead, we've lost 17 warships and thousands of our finest warriors to a primitive world that wasn't even supposed to have spacefaring capability. Vrex kept his composure. The Concorde deliberately misclassified Earth. They knew what the humans were capable of. And now, demanded another council member. Our southern territories lie exposed. If the humans pursue us, they won't. Vrex interrupted. The Concorde will ensure it. They fear human potential even more than we do. Meanwhile, Ambassador de Lara faced her own difficult conversation as she met with the expanded UN Security Council for private negotiations. The Galactic Conquests proposed treaty lay on the table between them, a document outlining technological exchange, protection agreements, and restrictions that were carefully worded but unmistakable in their intent. Secretary General Okafor studied the section on military development with narrowed eyes. These provisions would effectively prevent us from developing independent defensive capabilities beyond our solar system. De Lara's skin patterns remained neutral. The Concorde offers its protection. Your civilization would be secure. Indian diplomat Arjun Patel, known for his incisive analysis of international treaties, tapped a specific paragraph. This clause requires us to submit all reverse-engineered technology for Concorde approval before implementation. Combined with these certification requirements, it creates a perpetual dependency. These are standard provisions for newly contacted civilizations, de Lara explained smoothly. But Earth isn't standard, is it? Patil countered. You classified us as unique, Class X, so why offer us a standard arrangement? The tension in the room thickened as Dilara's skin briefly flashed patterns that the human translators couldn't interpret. Because, she finally responded, the alternative would be to treat you as the existential threat our models suggest you could become. The Galactic Conquests Justice Chamber defied human architectural concepts. Suspended platforms of luminescent material formed a three-dimensional amphitheater, with representatives from thousands of worlds positioned according to some incomprehensible hierarchy. The human delegation occupied a newly created platform near the center, a position that generated murmurs among the assembled species. Nairobi lawyer Makina Odhiambo approached the central podium, her traditional Kenyan attire drawing curious stares from alien observers. Behind her, holographic displays showed the devastation of Mumbai, Cairo, and Sao Paulo, cities targeted in the initial Zorkalian bombardment. Esteemed members of the Concord, she began, her voice steady despite the overwhelming audience, I speak not only as Earth's representative, but as someone who lost family in the attacks we are here to address. A ripple of translator devices echoed through the chamber as her words spread to thousands of different species. The Zorkalian Empire claims their attack followed standard protocols for a Class 3 civilization, she continued. We submit that regardless of classification, unprovoked aggression against a peaceful world violates the universal principles of justice that must underpin any legitimate interstellar order. Odhiambo paused, then abandoned her prepared statement. I had intended to present statistical analyses of casualties and infrastructure damage, but numbers cannot convey the true cost. She gestured to a young girl who stood quietly at the edge of the human platform. This is Priya Sharma, age 7. The bombardment of Mumbai killed her parents, her brother, and 34 children at her school. The chamber fell silent as Priya stepped forward. She carried a simple drawing, childish figures beneath a sky filled with dark shapes raining fire. I'm not here to demand vengeance, Odhiambo continued softly. Priya doesn't ask for retribution, but she deserves to grow up in a universe where powerful civilizations cannot attack weaker ones without consequence, where her surviving family can rebuild without fear of another attack, where the principles of peace apply to all worlds, not just those technologically advanced enough to enforce them. Throughout the vast chamber, multiple species exhibited their cultural equivalents of emotional response. Crystalline beings vibrated at frequencies that created haunting harmonics. Gas-filled entities changed colors in rapid succession. Even the normally stoic representatives of ancient civilizations showed signs of being deeply moved. In a private observation room, Dilara watched with growing concern as Makina Odhiambo finished her presentation. The Senkaru delegate beside her, a being composed of interlinked metallic segments, made a sound approximating a sigh. The humans are remarkably effective communicators, it noted. They blend logical and emotional appeals with unexpected skill. It's their evolutionary advantage, Dilara replied. Their fragmented societies required complex negotiation skills. They developed sophisticated methods of persuasion millennia before achieving technological stability. Behind them, a door slid open as an aide entered with an urgent message. Ambassador, we've detected unauthorized communication signals between multiple delegations and the human representatives. 27 species have requested private meetings outside Concord protocols. Dilara's skin darkened with concern. Which species? Primarily from the Outer Alliance and the Free Systems, those with historical grievances against Concord restrictions. Meanwhile, in the Earth Orbital Research Station, hastily assembled from modified International Space Station modules and captured alien technology, Dr. Vasquez stood before a gathering of international scientists. On the display behind her, the schematics for a prototype vessel, incorporating both human ingenuity and adapted Zorkalian technology, rotated slowly. The propulsion system combines our theoretical work on quantum field manipulation with their practical applications, she explained. We've managed to eliminate the inefficiencies in their design, and increase potential acceleration by 340%. Professor Okeke from Nigeria studied the technical readouts with wide eyes. This exceeds faster than light threshold by a considerable margin. You're saying this could be built within 6 months? Dr. Vasquez nodded. With global cooperation and resources, yes. We've transmitted the coded specifications to the diplomatic team. If negotiations fail, she left the implication hanging. Earth needs options, Professor Lai finished for her. The Phoenix gleamed against the lunar landscape, its hull a seamless fusion of terrestrial materials and adapted alien technology. Unlike the utilitarian designs of the Zorkalians or the crystalline structures of the Concorde vessels, Earth's first true starship reflected humanity's unique aesthetic, practical yet beautiful, aggressive yet elegant. Inside the command center overlooking the lunar dockyard, world leaders and top scientists gathered for the historic launch. Dr. Vasquez stood beside the viewing window, her face reflecting both pride and concern as engineering teams completed final preparations. 9 months, she murmured. From first contact to interstellar capability in 9 months. President Mbeki of the newly formed Earth Union nodded. The Concorde representatives are disturbed by our progress. They've requested we delay the launch until treaty negotiations are complete. And your response? Vasquez asked. I reminded them that while we appreciate their diplomatic outreach, Earth remains a sovereign world. His expression hardened slightly. They don't get to dictate our technological development. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Captain Maria Chen reviewed pre-launch diagnostics. Her crew represented Earth's finest, scientists, engineers, and military personnel from 23 nations, all trained in record time on systems that hadn't existed half a year ago. Propulsion systems at optimal parameters, reported her executive officer, Commander Ivanova. Defensive shields calibrated and stable. All stations report ready. Chen nodded, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Begin launch sequence. Let's make humanity proud. As the Phoenix rose from the lunar surface, its revolutionary drive system leaving no visible exhaust or energy signature, observational craft from the Galactic Conquests maintained a respectful distance. Inside one such vessel, Lara and her team watched with professional calm that belied their growing concern. Their drive system is unlike anything we've seen, noted her science officer. They haven't simply copied Zorkalian technology. They've fundamentally reimagined it. Lara's skin patterns shifted to deep blue. How long until they reach the Nix territories? At their current acceleration, approximately 7 standard days. The Nix have rejected Concorde membership for millennia, Lara said thoughtfully. They would make powerful allies for Earth. Thousands of kilometers away, the Concorde diplomatic delegation presented their final treaty proposal to the Earth Union Council. The document laid open on the conference table, its terms significantly revised from earlier versions. Gone were many of the restrictive clauses that had raised concern among Earth's diplomats. Indian diplomat Arjun Patel studied the changes with practiced skepticism. You've removed the technology certification requirements and the restrictions on independent colony establishment. The Concorde's chief negotiator, a being of gelatinous composition named Xoril, rippled in what appeared to be affirmation. The High Council recognizes Earth's unique position. We offer partnership rather than supervision. Patel exchanged glances with his fellow diplomats. A remarkable evolution in your stance. What changed? Xoril's translucent body shifted slightly. The Concorde adapts to reality. Your technological progression has exceeded all projections. The Phoenix demonstration proved that Earth will achieve interstellar prominence with or without Concorde blessing. What Xoril didn't mention was the urgent communication from Lara that had forced the treaty revisions. Earth had already received covert technology exchange offers from 17 independent systems, all chafing under Concorde restrictions. In the Phoenix's communications center, Lieutenant Nakamura intercepted an encrypted transmission directed at a distant star system. After several minutes of work, the decryption algorithm revealed the message's content, detailed surveillance data on Earth's military capabilities, technological development, and diplomatic activities. "Captain," she reported to Chen, "I believe the Concorde is transmitting far more detailed information about us than they've acknowledged. This isn't standard diplomatic correspondence." Chen frowned. "Send a secure packet to Earth Union intelligence. Meanwhile, maintain our course to the Nix territories." She paused, staring at the star map. "And prepare a contingency route that avoids all known Concorde monitoring stations." 1 year to the day after the Zorkalian attack, Earth's diplomatic fleet assembled in high orbit. 7 vessels, each representing the pinnacle of human ingenuity combined with reverse-engineered alien technology, formed a perfect formation against the backdrop of their home planet. Unlike the uniform designs favored by the Concorde, or the intimidating silhouettes of Zorkalian warships, each Earth vessel displayed distinct characteristics reflecting the diverse cultures that had contributed to its creation. Admiral Sheila Rodriguez, promoted after her success during the initial alien encounter, stood on the observation deck of the flagship Prometheus. The view before her represented humanity's most ambitious achievement, not merely surviving first contact, but thriving because of it. "Final systems check complete," reported her executive officer. "All vessels report ready for synchronized jump." Rodriguez nodded. "Commence countdown. Destination: the Lyra cluster." In the Galactic Conquests Grand Chamber, an emergency session had been called to address what many elder species were calling the Earth situation. Holographic displays showed the trajectory of humanity's fleet, not toward Concorde space as expected, but toward regions dominated by smaller independent civilizations. "This is unprecedented," declared the representative from the Muldari Collective, a species that had been spacefaring for over 20,000 years. "No newly contacted civilization has ever bypassed Concorde integration to establish their own diplomatic network." De Lara, recently promoted to senior ambassador following her handling of the Earth crisis, maintained a carefully neutral expression. "The humans have signed our non-aggression pacts and fair trade agreements. They have legal freedom to pursue independent relations." "Legal, yes. Advisable, no," countered another elder. "Their technological advancement curve is still accelerating. Our models now predict they will achieve Class 7 capabilities within 30 years, a development path that took most of us millennia." As the debate continued, an urgent message interrupted the proceedings. A small civilization in the Lyra cluster, the Veshrai, was under attack by Zorkalian raiders. The Concorde's response vessels were hours away at best. In the Veshrai system, 3 Zorkalian cruisers bombarded orbital habitats, their commanders confident in the absence of significant defensive capabilities. The Veshrai, a peaceful species focused on art and philosophy, had little military infrastructure. Their distress calls echoed across subspace, expecting only delayed Concorde intervention. The first sign that something was wrong came when 2 of the Zorkalian cruisers suddenly lost weapons capability. The third detected unusual energy signatures moments before the Prometheus and Endeavour materialized from faster-than-light travel, their advanced shield systems glowing with power that outclassed anything in the raiders' arsenal. "Zorkalian vessels." Admiral Rodriguez's voice transmitted across all frequencies. "This is Earth Fleet Command. You are engaged in unprovoked aggression against a civilian population. Power down your systems immediately or face appropriate consequences." The stunned Zorkalian commander responded with predictable defiance. "Human interference is irrelevant. This system has no protection treaty." His transmission cut off as precisely calibrated energy pulses from the Earth vessels disabled his cruiser's remaining offensive capabilities without causing catastrophic damage. Within hours, representatives from 26 previously unaligned civilizations had contacted Earth Fleet, requesting diplomatic meetings. Word spread quickly through subspace communications. Humans didn't just talk about protecting smaller species, they actually did it, with efficiency that the Concorde's bureaucratic response systems couldn't match. Back on the Prometheus, Admiral Rodriguez received the preliminary diplomatic report. "They're calling us liberators," her communications officer noted with surprise. Rodriguez shook her head slightly. "We're not liberators, just neighbors who understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of unexpected aggression." She turned to face the starfield, where the distant lights of thousands of inhabited systems twinkled with possibility. "Send word to Earth. Operation Good Neighbor is proceeding as planned. Phase 1 complete." In the Concord chamber, as reports of human intervention reached the assembled representatives, an uncomfortable silence fell over the proceedings. Finally, an ancient member of the council, whose species had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, spoke with unexpected clarity. "We've been asking the wrong question," it said, its voice resonating through translator devices. "Not whether humans are dangerous, but whether the galaxy needs exactly what they offer: decisive action backed by genuine empathy. Perhaps Class X isn't a warning. Perhaps it's a recognition of evolutionary excellence."